your experience, which is otherwise called as your data set. Okay. Now, having understood about the experience or having collected the data set, now what are the major class of algorithms that are supported? So there are only two major class of algorithms. One is supervised, another one is unsupervised. The third category we call it as reinforcement, which is not part of this course. That's actually learning through one's own experience, which are part of the gaming, and that's not part of this particular course. So let us go in detail about a clear understanding on what supervised learning and unsupervised learning is. I have a very common and a traditional example. Have a look at this diagram. How does it appear? We have certain group of people, they are being distinguished. So assume that these are employees belonging to a particular company, right? So given this list of employees along with different data like how much are they earning, where are they from, name, and different features about them, what can you do with this people, right? So one is, I have written some probable ideas or use cases of what came to my mind. It could be anything as you wish, right? We can calculate the average weight of all the people in a group. I assume that the persons wearing common colored dress belong to a same department of the company, right? So can we calculate or not? Yes. Then we can calculate the average salary that is being earned by a particular department, right? Then we can designate them using the color of shirt they wear, meaning that if this red color belongs to an electricity department, yellow may belong to a security department, this blue may belongs to a HR department, we can designate them. Then they can designate them with the department they work on. Yes, that is also possible. Likewise, a lot of use cases we may write. And finally, why is it a supervised learning? That's what we need to understand, right? So given a set of data, we have different outputs like this, right? So based on the color, we are able to identify these things. So and hence, we end up with two different kinds of major activities that are possible. The one, first two, if you take, calculate average weight of all in the group, it will end up with a number, right? So whether it will be continuous data or categorical data, always the average is a continuous data which will fall within a particular range, right? Then if you calculate the average salary, again that all value also will be continuous, not discrete, right? Designate them using the color of shirt. See, you know how many labels are there? It's only three, yellow, red, and then this corresponding blue. And then designate with the department they work on. Okay, a company will have defined set of departments, let's say 10 or 20 or anything. Again, it is defined, so it comes under multi-class labeling. So accordingly, there are two major classifications or categories in supervised learning. One is your regression, another one is your classification. So what is regression? So if you are in need to find a output as part of your continuous value, then we say it is regression. Let's say in your data set, if the output column corresponds to a continuous value, you cannot change it to a discrete value, right? So what is expected when a new person comes in, you may be able to again predict a continuous value. That's where we end up with regression. What is classification? It is classifying or putting the particular data into a group or a class label. So always if you want to place it on a class label, we want to have a finite set of categories on a particular output. Okay. So if your output corresponds to categorical value, then we say the algorithm to be used is a classification algorithm. When the output falls into a continuous value, then we say the algorithm to be used is a regression algorithm, right? So this is what is supervised learning. This could be applied to all data sets where you have a set of input and its corresponding output, right? So coming to this picture, so what does it convey? What can you do with this? Can you calculate average salary? Anything? Can you calculate anything? Because we don't know, this is a different kind of set. We don't know any information, or we could not come to understand anything about it. Okay. So with this data set, suppose if you have a data set of this type, okay, what will you do with that? Okay. I have done something, so I can Sorry, on the slide it was written supervised, it is actually unsupervised. By mistake, I have left that. You make it as a note, it's unsupervised learning. Now, given a set of data without particular output, because if you take any person, they are not giving any specific value or output. Okay, they are part of this group, that's it, we know. Okay, what we can do is, we can create a cluster based on the age. Yes, of course, because by looking at the height, weight and so many other parameters you can do. By looking at the color, or you can create a group by looking at the height or the sex. These are the possible set of operations that you can do. So what you can do with a data set that doesn't have an output column, you can only group them based on some parameter or other. Okay, the parameter on which you are going to group, okay, nobody knows, because whatever is giving the highest impact, let's say if this group has only 5 kids and 1500 adults, there is no point in categorizing it using the age. Likewise, the biggest impact on this particular data set has to be understood or learned by repeatedly looking at the characteristic, and that's how you should end up with the groups. This is what we call as clustering. Clustering is just a kind of grouping activity with some additional information. Okay, now that we have understood what the feature is, what machine learning is and all the things, now it's time to basically understand the basic modeling process of a machine learning system. Now if you look at the data are being collected or the experience is being collected from the real world entities. So what is a real world entity? Anything and everything that generates data. Be it a camera on the road, be it a sensor that is attached to a person, be it the human being who is giving reviews on Facebook, whoever it is, right? Everything is called as a real world entity. This data once collected has to go to a pre-processing stage, wherein all the data will be made ready for processing. There will be a lot of mismatch in the data type and other things. We'll be discussing all these things shortly in the course. All those has to be done. Then once it is ready, we want to check whether all the features listed over there are of use or not, because most of the time we'll end up with 50, 100 or a lot of features which is not really of use. So we have to trim it. So if there exist unwanted features, then we have to go for dimensionality reduction, which ends up in reducing the number of features. Okay. After having done that, we'll move on training the system. What is training? Using the experience that we collect, we try to create a program using the algorithm that we have chosen. Selected model refers to the algorithm that we have chosen. How to select the model? It is based on the type of data set that we have gathered. Once the system is trained, now that it is having a program with it and it is ready for predicting the output for your new input, right? So that needs to be tested first, because without testing you cannot release it, right? How do you test? Again, we will test the trained model using the data or the portion of data, whichever we have used for your what is called as training, right? Finally, based on the results, we have to analyze whether the model gives us the proper result or not. Otherwise, we have to go for choosing another model, or by adjusting the parameters, or by adding up the data. So many different process remains. So this is the overview of your modeling process. So this is the takeaway that we are expected to have from this session. So you should have understood about machine learning and traditional programming, about the features, the categories of data that is there in the ML dataset, about the different types of machine learning algorithm, and about the modeling process, right? Thank you.